Hi, good morning, everyone. I think we shall start now. So I'll be the host for today's webinar. My name is Rajdeep, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of ReWiser. And today's webinar is all about SAT, ACT, and AP exams. We're going to talk about all the three exams, how the pattern looks like between SAT and ACT, which one should a student be doing? What is the importance of these exams? What is the right time when the student should be doing these exams? What are the countries that accept SATs, ACTs, or AP scores? Then towards the later half, we'll also be talking about very important aspect, which is the what are the latest changes which are happening in SAT, which is starting from March 2023. And then we'll also be talking about ReWiser recommended timelines and our pedagogy in terms of how we help students prepare for these exams. Right, so that is what we are going to talk about in this entire webinar. For the next 30, 35, 40 minutes, I'm gonna walk you through the entire presentation. So if in case you guys have any question, please feel free to put it up on the chat section. And even after, so we'll be taking up all those questions towards the end. And also at the end, we will be opening the forum for the last 10-15 minutes for the Q&A session, right? So all the questions can be asked during that period. So that's how we are gonna take this webinar forward. With that, let me start with the first thing. And let me quickly brief about what ReWiser is. So we are a high school support company which assists students achieve their high school academic goals. We largely help students from grade 8 to grade 12. We have two major verticals. The first one is test prep. Under test prep, we help students with SATs, ACTs, and Psat exam. And then we also help students with the advanced placement test, which are also known as AP exams, right? And then on the other hand, we also have academic tutoring vertical, which is in the IGCSE, IB, and A-level subject tutoring, where we help students with different subject helps. So that is what we do. We've been doing this for the last 6 years now. We've catered to about 3,500 odd students and roughly about 6+ countries. So that's what we have achieved in the last 5 years. With that, let me quickly move on to what SAT, ACTs are, right? So these are standardized tests which are needed for most of the needed by most of the undergrad colleges in US. They basically help colleges to determine the preparedness level of the child, right? How ready the student is to be in the college. The exam largely entails English and maths. That's what both the tests contains. As I said, they're pretty much mandatory by most of the US colleges. Apart from that, there are a couple of other geographies where SAT also helps. Now, if I have to name few, so you can also apply to Canada, Singapore, Hong Kong, Australia, even in some colleges in India with your SAT scores, right? It's always debatable whether it's mandatory to submit these scores in these countries or is it an optional component. But since they provide you an option to submit the scores, it's generally recommended for you to go ahead and submit the scores if in case you have done it and if in case you have done it well, right? It always helps. Even if it is not in terms of admission, it will definitely help you in terms of the scholarships, right? So that is how the SAT, ACT exams on a high level look like. Now let's try and deep dive into both these exams, right? So first of all, I think, a lot of parents and students come to me and ask this question that do I need to write both? So my answer to that question is no, you have to write only one and you have to figure out which is the right fit test for you, right? Would it be SAT or ACT? Consider this like two competitors, companies which are competing for the same set of students. They want students to write their particular exam. However, you need to pick the exam where you think you would do well. For example, in case of SAT, SAT is conducted by an organization called College Board, and ACT is conducted by an organization called act.org. SAT happens 5 times a year, which is in the month of March, May, August, October, and December. That's the cycle for SAT. ACT, on the other hand, happens 7 times a year, which is in the month of Feb, April, June, July, September, October, and December. So ACT is obviously happening a lot more often. And one of the reasons why this is happening is because SAT is a pen and paper test. On the other hand, ACT is an online test. So it's a very important difference because When it's an online test, it's a lot easier to conduct these exams, and hence ACT happens more often as opposed to SAT. In terms of the length of the exam, SAT is a 3-hour long exam, and ACT on the other hand is also a 3-hour long exam. In addition to that, there is a essay component which is for 45 minutes, which you can decide to write it, or if you want, you can skip it. Otherwise, both the exams are similar in terms of timeline. Then if you further deep dive into the different sections, SAT entails 4 different sections: reading, writing, maths, no calculator, maths calculator. So reading section is nothing but a reading comprehension section, wherein you've been given 5 different passages. You have to read those passages and then answer the question. In totality, you will be given 52 questions, and you have 65 minutes to read these passages and answer these 52 questions. So that is what is there in the reading comprehension. The second section in the SAT is writing section, which is predominantly testing your grammar rules. There are a total of 4 passages. Every passage will have 11 questions. That's a total of 44 questions. If in case you figure out there are any errors in a particular sentence, you have to rectify those errors. That is what is there in the writing section. Then you move to math section. The third math section is maths without the calculator. There are a total of 20 questions, and you have a total of 25 minutes to solve these questions. And then the last section is maths with calculator, wherein you have a total of you have a total of 38 questions, and you have roughly about 55 minutes to solve this section. And here you are allowed to use the calculator. So these are the 4 sections that you have in SAT. Also, do remember the time is section wise. It's not an overall 3-hour long test. So you also need to adhere to the timings which are given for each section, right? That means if in case you have done your reading section early, you cannot move to the writing section, or you cannot use the time from maths in the English or vice versa. On the contrary, if you look at ACT has 5 sections. The first section is known as English section, which is predominantly similar to what you have in SAT as writing section, which is testing your grammar rules. So you'll be given certain passages. There will be certain error in those passages. You have to rectify those errors. That is what is there in the English section. However, here in this particular section, you have a total of 75 questions, and you have 60 minutes to do these questions. 45 minutes to do these questions. That means you have to be really, really quick as opposed to what you had in the SAT. The number of questions are more and time is less. Similarly, if you look at math section, there is second section is a math section here, and you are allowed to use the calculator all throughout the section. The section has total of 60 questions, and you have 60 minutes to solve these questions. So you basically have 1 minute per question to solve this math section in ACT. However, if you look at the SAT, you had roughly about, if you include both the section, you have 58 questions, and you had roughly about 85 minutes to solve this math section. That means you have roughly about 1.5 minutes to solve this thing. However, in math, you only have in ACT, you only have a minute per question, right? That means again, ACT, you have to be really, really quick. However, the level of question, it's much simpler, right? And that's where I said in the beginning that you have to figure out which is the exam that suits your requirement, right? Are you the one who's okay to get difficult question, but you need more time? Or you are one of those students who actually does not care really about the time, but you want slightly easier questions, and you are okay to do them at much faster pace. Then in that case, ACT is something that might suit you. The third section in the ACT is reading section, which is very similar to the SAT reading comprehension section. However, here you have only 4 passages with 10 questions each. That's a total of 40 questions, and you have 35 minutes to do these 40 questions. So you have less than a minute per question in reading section as well. And then the last section, which is a very, very important section, and that's where most of us kind of get confused, is the science section. So a lot of parents, students come to me and ask me this question that, hey, Rajdeep, I don't want to do science in college, so then that means I should be doing an SAT, or vice versa. I want to do science in college, so I should be doing ACT, right? Because there's a science section in ACT. So let me clear that myth. So basically, science section in ACT is nothing but a reading section. The only difference is you're reading science-based passages and answering the question, right? So you have a total of 4 sections 4 passages that you encountered in science, and every section will have every passage will have certain number of questions. So you have a total of 40 questions and you have a total of 35 minutes. You have to read the science-based passages and answer the question. That is what entails in the science section, right? So in SAT, in the reading comprehension itself, they had 5 passages. Out of the 5 passages, they will have about 2 passages which are science-based. However, in ACT, they have created a separate section altogether here, right? So that's another difference between the two exams, SAT and ACT. And then you have an essay component, which is an optional essay component. If you want to write it, you can write it. Though it's not graded in your main score, there is a separate scoring that works for the essay component. With that, if you look at it, the major difference between the two exams, SAT is offline, ACT is online. SAT, you have 2 English section and 2 math section. ACT, on the other hand, you have literally 3 English section and only 1 math section. So you have almost 75% English and only 25% math in ACT. SAT, you have calculator and no calculator math. ACT, you can use the calculator all throughout. SAT, there is no separate science section. ACT, there is a separate science section. SAT, no essay component. ACT, there is an optional essay component. SAT, you have more time to solve the questions, but the questions are slightly more difficult. ACT, the questions are a lot more simpler, and you have less time to solve these questions. That's predominantly the major differences between the two exams. And obviously the other difference in terms of how they are being scored. SAT is scored out of 1600 points, which is 800 for math, 800 for English. And in English also, it's further subdivided into 400 for reading and 400 for writing. However, on the other hand, if you look at ACT is out of 36 points, in which each of the individual section is out of 36, and then they find the average of 4. That's finally your overall score from the 36 in ACT. So that's predominantly the difference between the two exams. However, as a student, if you have to take a decision whether you should be doing an SAT or an ACT, how should you be doing that? I think my advice to you would be, write a diagnostic test. Write one diagnostic for SAT, one diagnostic for ACT, see which one you are more comfortable with, right? And then decide which test would you like to take, right? In US, whether you do an SAT or an ACT, both the exams are equally acceptable. So you don't have to worry about the acceptability of these tests in the in colleges. You can write either or. It could be SAT or it could be ACT, right? So I think that's the best way to figure out which is the right test for you. Moving on, there's something called PSAT, right? I don't know how many of you have heard about it. It's called preliminary SAT or a practice SAT. It's a simplified version of the SAT. I generally call it as a subset of SAT. Now, who should take this PSAT, right? It's more like a practice test. So if the child is in grade 9, grade 8, grade 10, if you want to write a SAT and understand where you stand at this point of time worldwide, Psat is one exam that you can write. Psat only happens once a year, and it is administered either by your respective school or there are certain host schools in your cities, right? So you have to figure out whether it's being offered in your school. If yes, then you go ahead and register. If not, you can figure out what are the other schools in your city which host PSAT, and you can register there as well, right? Now, one of the important factor which also involved with the PSAT is something called Nmsqt. But this is only important for the students who are basically US citizen, right? Or for the parents whose kids are in US citizen. For them, if in case you write the PSAT in grade 11th, then it is also known as Nmsqt, which is National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. Okay? So it's important for you to write this exam only if in case you have to be in grade 11 to get the scholarship, and B, you have to clear this exam. And the PSAT itself is known as Nmsqt at this point of time, right? So, and this is obviously helpful for you to see if you can get certain scholarship, which is being offered by the college board in this case, right? So that is where people write Psat. Now, if you look at in terms of test structure, how they are different from SAT, as I said, it's a subset of SAT. There is no essay in Psat, just like SAT. PSATs are also used for college and are not used for college admissions, unlike SAT. Psat, on the other hand, are also used or given by some students because they want to look for summer school program, or if in case they're looking for some sort of scholarship through Nmsqt route, right? However, if you look at the test pattern, it's similar to what SAT is. The only difference is you will see that the number of questions are being scaled down and the time is also scaled down. And similarly, respectively, the scores are also being scaled down. The reading section, instead of 52 question, will have only 47 question, and you have only about 60 minutes. Writing section will have 44 question and have about 35 minutes. Maths calculator will have 17 question, 25 minutes. Maths calculator will have 31 question and you have a total of 45 minutes. So if you look at it overall, instead of 1600, the exam is also only out of 1520 points. The maximum that you can score in English is 720. The maximum that you can score in maths is 760 again. So 160 to 760 is the score that you can get at max in case of PSAT, and in case of SAT, between 200 to 800 is the score that you can get. So that's the difference between the PSAT and SAT. Moving on to the next thing, wherein we were talking about, I said it in the beginning that we will be talking about the latest changes which are happening in SAT. And this is very, very important if the child is in grade 10th right now, or finished grade 10th and moving to grade 11. I think, so what you need to notice here is starting March 2023, next year, SAT is changing the pattern and there are a lot of things which are changing. One of the things which is changing is the time is being reduced from 3 hours to 2 hours. It will no longer be an offline test, it will be an online test. There will only be 2 sections instead of 4 sections. Students will have more time per question. The testing app would save students progress while they are working. It will help the students to basically save the work if in case there is some power issue or something at the center. Though it is an online exam, though it can be done on your personal laptop and tablet, you still have to go to the center and it will be under proctored condition. They are also looking at allowing calculator usage throughout the math section, just like the ACT. The test will be adaptive in nature. That means the test that you get as opposed to the other student get might be different. The first section will be common. Depending on your performance in the first section, they will throw different set of questions to different set of students depending on what level of scores you have achieved in the first section. And since the test is online, the 2 things will happen. The test will happen more often, so you will have more chances to write this exam, and the scores will be released much sooner because now it's online, so there is no manual intervention in terms of evaluating the scores, and hence the scores will be released much sooner. So these are few changes which are happening in SAT, and why it is important to discuss it right now, and why I said it's important for students who are moving from grade 10 to grade 11. Because if you look at the cycle, in this year, you are only left with August, October, and December. These are the only 3 attempts left. And starting March, anyways, the pattern will change, right? So for you, especially for the students who are going into grade 11th right now, or in grade 11th right now, they should finish their SAT in this year itself. That means within the next 3 attempts, they should be doing 1 or 2 attempts, depending on how many they want to write, and get over with it, because you may not want to prepare for old pattern and then write the new pattern. And it might be too risky for you to wait until next year, March, to see how the pattern will change and then start preparing, because you also have to start looking for a college application next year, right? So it's very, very critical time for the students who are getting into grade 11th right now. And hence, we have a strong recommendation that you should try and finish your prep while you are in this year itself, without waiting for the next year cycle. So this is how these changes in SAT are affecting everyone. With that, let me move on to the next exam, wherein we were talking about the advanced placement courses. Now, what is AP exams, right? So, like in India, we have, some of these parents are who have joined us today are coming from CBSE, some are from IB, some are from IGCSE curriculum. Just like we have these different curriculums in India, in US, they also follow, some of the schools follow a certain curriculum called AP curriculum, which is advanced placement course. So they basically study this subject in school and then they write the exam. However, AP can also be given by the students outside of US. So they cannot study it in the school. So they will have to prepare it on their own, but they can write the exam But why should they write it, right? I think that's the bigger question. Now, there are different advantages of taking the AP test. One of the biggest advantages, you want to write it down because you want to stand out in your college admissions. So what you're trying to showcase to the colleges, my peers have done 5 subjects and I've done 5 plus 2 more AP subjects and I've gotten 5 on 5 there. So that basically helps you stand out in your college admissions. It helps you to, showcase that you have done more than what your peers and what others have done. So that is one of the major reasons why a lot of people write AP exams. The second important reason is you also earn college credits, which is very, very important because so you will earn the college credit while you are in India itself. That basically means you will save cost because every credit that you earn in US, you have to pay certain dollars, right? For example, in US, if you have to get 1 credit uh, in your kitty, you have to pay almost about $1,000. And here, if you write in one subject AP exam, you might get roughly about 5 to 8 credits, right? So that's about $5,000 to $8,000 savings that you would do, assuming you would get a certain score, right? So these are more like college credits which you get, which are transferable to any college when you join the college, right? So that obviously helps you to save money. At the same time, it helps you to save time, right? Because for example, let's say if there's an AP exam called AP Calculus. So if you write an AP Calculus exam in your grade 11 summer break, because AP happens only once a year, which is in the month of May, then in that case, and you get, let's say, 5 on 5 in your AP Calculus BC exam, then in that case, you don't have to do your semester 1, semester 2, and semester 3 AP exams. Sorry, the math courses when you are in college. So you can actually skip the 3 semester maths courses if you have already done your AP Calculus BC while you are in India. So obviously it has helped you to save cost. More importantly, it has helped you to save time. And while you have that time, you could take an extra minor or a major, and you could finish your degree much faster. That is also an advantage why a lot of people write AP exam. Some people write it to skip introductory classes. I've already explained it to you how that happens. Some people write it to build rigor. And also in some cases, so let's say for some reason you're not been able to do well in your school level maths, right? But you are good at math. What you would do is, you will go out and you will write the AP exam for the maths. And if in case you are able to get a 5 on 5 in AP, you will showcase it to the college and then you will build your story around it saying, hey, you know what, I'm good at maths. It's just that I couldn't do it in school for an XYZ reason, right? So it'll help you to build that cohesive story around it if in case you have not been able to do well in a certain subject. In some cases, people also write it because, let's say, for example, IB has this restriction that you can take 3 HLs and 3 SL. However, I want to do one more science and I want to showcase that I'm good at this science as well. So what I would do is I will take that subject as an AP subject, right? And I'll showcase it to the college saying that, hey, I'm also interested in this subject, though because there is a restriction in my school that I could only take certain number of subjects, I could not do it. However, I'm good at this as well, right? So if you want to showcase all of that, you always can write the AP exams. However, a lot of people come back and ask me this question that, if I'm doing an IB or A level, I anyways get college credits for the courses that I'm doing. Do I still need to write it? As I said, it's not just about college credit. It's also about showcasing your application, building academic rigor. And at the same time, if in case you want to take additional subjects, which you have not done in school, but you are interested in, you could do it through the AP route. So that's the reason why AP is gaining a lot of popularity in the last 2 years. I don't know how many of you are aware, there used to be something called subject SATs for different subjects like maths, physics, chemistry, which were taken off by College Board last year, March. And right after that, AP has gained tremendous importance across the people in India. So a lot of CBSE and IC students are writing it for credits as well. And at the same time, IB and IG students are writing it because they want to showcase extra rigor. They want to showcase that they've done well in additional subject as well. So that is why people write advanced placement. In terms of how these exams happen, when it happens, scoring and all of that, we keep conducting different webinars at different point of time throughout the year. We'll be doing one in the month of July. So if in case you'd be interested to deep dive into AP, I would request you guys to join in then, where we'll be talking in detail about the AP course separately, because it's a vast topic in itself. There are almost about 30 subjects which are being offered under the advanced placement course. Now with that, since we have discussed all the 3 tests that we wanted to talk about, which is SATs, which are ACTs, which are PSATs and APs. Now let's talk about the planning, right? The timeline, the planning in terms of when should you be doing these exams, right? And that's a very, very important ask, because it's a 4-year journey, that the way I see 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And in all these 4 years, you're obviously working on your profile development. And at the same time, you also need to look at these exams, the SAT, ACT, Psat, and AP exam. So what is the right time to look at these exams? Psat, first thing, finish it off in grade 9th, if in case you want to write it. So you should finish it in grade 9th. As I said, it happens in the school premise itself, either your school or some other host school in your city. Please figure that out and write this exam. Generally, it happens in the month of October. Then comes the SAT or the ACT. The first thing that you need to do is write the diagnostic test, figure out which is an ideal test for you. Would it be SAT or an ACT? And then start preparing for that particular exam. In most of the students that we have seen over the last 6 years, our Indian students struggle with the English component, and we recommend you to start for your English prep as early as possible, especially the reading section. That's one of the major problem in these kind of exams, because we are not so much tuned to read. And the kind of reading that we do is also not very relevant to the SAT reading, because here they're testing you on different zones. They're testing you history, humanities, social science, fiction. They're testing you pretty much on everything. Whereas we, we don't read. B, even if we read something very specific. Someone would just read all fictional, or someone would just read all science, or right. So it's very important to start preparing for your reading section as early as possible, maybe in grade 9th itself, right? And when I say start preparing for reading, I'm not saying in terms of SAT, ST, in general, right? So, read Wall Street Journal articles, read Washington Post articles. That'll help you to improve your reading comprehension in general per se. When you come to grade 10, you should start your English prep, and either towards the end of grade 10 or early grade 11, you should try and finish off your SAT or ACT exam. At least your first attempt should be done latest by first semester, first quarter of your grade 11th exam. And then depending on your score, you need to decide whether you want to write it again. And right after that period, you should start your AP prep, because in the summer break of grade 11th is the only time when you have time to write the AP exams. So you only get one cycle or one attempt at it. And hence it's important to start your AP prep well ahead of time, maybe about July, August time frame when you're in grade 10th itself, right? And hence I'm saying finish your ST, the major part of prep in the first quarter of your grade 11th, and try and write your first attempt, maybe either August or October, depending on your scores. Decide when you should be writing it. Unfortunately, this year you have to write it in December. You cannot postpone it to next year because of the changes which are happening. However, if in case you are not in that scenario, then in that case, you can also shift it to next year, right? So that's how it kind of happens in terms of AP. And then when you come in grade 12, there is hardly any time. You will be working on your college applications, essays, common app essays, supplemental essays. You will have a shortlisting your colleges. You'll have so many things that you need to work upon on your college app that you will hardly have time to work on it, right? You can see that I've also written write AP in grade 12th. You can write AP in grade 12th after you're done with your grade 12, basically. But remember, then you're not writing it for your college applications, because your college applications are gone. You already have an admit from school. You're only writing it purely for credit purposes, right? So if in case you have not done it in grade 11th and you want to write it, you can also do it in grade 12th purely from credit perspectives. So that is also something that you could look at, writing the APs, if in case you have not prepared so far or you've not done it so far. And then obviously your college starts, right? So that's the timeline that we look at or we recommend. And I'm happy to sit one-on-one with different families, parents, and students to figure out what works for each child, because each child is different. Your targets would be different. You would be looking at different set of colleges. we can have a one-on-one discussion to figure out what works best for the child. Similarly, we offer free diagnostic tests. So after this webinar, we'll be sending out a mailer to all of you about this free diagnostic test. You guys can go ahead and register for these diagnostic tests and write the exam. Coming to the next part, colleges in India which are accepting SAT scores. So as I've told you earlier, it's not just in US, even colleges in India have started accepting SAT scores. There are almost about 40 plus universities now in India which are accepting SAT scores. Some of the famous ones are Ashoka University, Azim Premji, Flame, Kriya, Manav Rashna, Plaksha, Srinagar. So most of the private universities have started taking SAT scores now. Instead of writing individual exams for each of these universities, you can write just the SAT exam and submit it to these colleges. However, at the same time, if you don't want to, you can write the individual exams as well. You do have that purview. Here is the link. So this is the URL, international.collegeboard.org/students/SAT/acceptance India. This URL will take you to the list of all the colleges with the major for which they accept the SAT scores, right? So you can go and visit this link, and they keep on updating because SAT is, trying to do tie up with a lot more colleges in India to make this as a standardized admission process. With that, let me move on to the last component of this webinar, where we'll be talking about our pedagogy. As I said, at ReWiser, the first step is writing a diagnostic test for SAT, for ACT, which will help us to figure out where the student is at this point of time, and for the student to understand whether they are more suitable for SAT or for ACT. That is what happens in phase 0. Then we move to phase 1, 2, and 3. Phase 1 is largely about classroom training. That's where the student is going to about 40 to 50 hours of classes and roughly about 40 to 50 hours of assignments. Every session is a 2.5 hour long class. And the reason to have a longer class is because we want students to start focusing for that long, which is also one of the problems that we have encountered, that students are not able to focus for that long. There's a score tracker in which they have to update all their assignment scores. And this score tracker is very, very important component in phase 2. When you move to phase 2, we assign a dedicated mentor to every student. This mentor will look at student performance from phase 1 assignments, and based on that, figure out the areas and of weakness, areas of development, and they help them make a customized study plan on a weekly basis. They also provide them a lot of sectional tests at this point of time, which help us to figure out whether the child has reached the desired score for each individual sections. Once that happens, you move to phase 3, which is predominantly the mock test, wherein student would be doing at least about 10 to 15 full-length tests before they write their final exam, be it SAT or ACT. Every test that you write, you get a detailed report analysis saying what areas you have done well, what areas you need to improve. So all of that happen, and at the same time, you also do the self-analysis of the mistakes, because we also provide you the answer explanation for each and every question which is there in the test paper. So that's how the entire program looks like, and it takes anywhere between 4 to 6 months for someone to finish this program. So for grade 10 student moving into grade 11, I understand you are just finishing your boards, or you've just finished, or you're about to finish. But unfortunately, because you don't have too much time, my strong recommendation would be start as soon as possible if you want to achieve your desired scores. And obviously, you don't want to write one attempt with older pattern and one attempt with the newer pattern, if in case you decide to write SAT. If you decide to write ACT, then that's not a problem at all. Now, this was the full program which I had just explained to you. However, at ReWiser, we believe that one size does not fit for all. So you could take that program if you need complete help. However, we also have other programs like SATC study plan, where you only take for phase 2 and phase 3. You don't take the live classes. We also have a program called SAT Lite, where you don't even take phase 2, you only take phase 3, which is just the practice test. So student comes to us if they've already been getting a good score. Now they just need more practice tests, which are proctored by us, and then at the end they get a detailed report for it, right? So that is what happens in the SAT Lite module. So these are the 3 different modules, and there are more options which are obviously not listed here, wherein you can also do just the reading only, writing only, maths only programs as well. So these are different modules that we cover. Feel free to reach out to us, and happy to discuss one-on-one based on this. With that, I've finished the entire presentation that I wanted you guys to walk through. Now I'll start taking up questions if there are any from the chat section. And at the same time, if in case you have any more question, please, you can start putting it up on the chat section. In the webinar, we've covered about SATs, ACTs, Psat, APs, the timelines when you should be writing it, who should be writing it. So any question related to this, please feel free to put up these questions here. I'll start taking up the questions here. Okay. The first question I have is, do you recommend AP exam for a student who intends to pursue Bachelor of Performing Arts in the US? If yes, how many APs? Definitely, Arisa, right? It's irrespective of what major that you pick. And I think, that's what I said, that, when we do that AP webinar, there we also talk about how do you figure out whether for your webinar, for your major that you're looking for, what are the APs which are relevant, right? So I think what I would recommend you to is to go to the AP College Board website. There's a place in which talks about how to find the right AP for you, depending on the major that you want to do, depending on the college you want to go to, right? So it'll give you the list of APs, right? How many APs, that's completely up to you, right? First thing, you have to make sure that your school academics are really, really good. Then your STs are good. And then you come for the AP, right? So it's in that particular order, right? So make sure you only write APs if your school grades are good, you've done your ST, then you look for the APs. Otherwise, no point if your school academics are not good and you're trying to write APs, because then it's contradictory, right? You might as well first make sure that your school academics are good. But in general, about 3 APs is a good, 2 to 3 APs is a good one to do. Next question, what are the subjects included in AP exam? As I said, there are almost about 30 subjects. It's a huge list. As I said, we'll be doing another webinar next month. Please come back, join us on that webinar, or otherwise you can go to the College Board website and you'll be able to find the list of subjects which are offered for AP. Next question I have from Shobha. So will we get the recorded video for this session so that we can go through the slides again? Definitely, ma'am. We'll be sharing the recorded. We've already recorded the session, so we'll be sharing this with you over the mail. So you should get it latest by Monday. You'll get the entire recording. You'll also get the free SAT diagnostic test link. So student can go ahead and write the diagnostic test on their own in the next week, whenever they want to. Next question is from Nitin. My daughter is taking ASA level for AICE diploma. Do you get credits for A-level subjects? Yes, Nitin, you do get credits for some of the A-level subjects. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. But if you look at A-levels, the challenge there is you only do about 4 subjects, right? So if in case that's the scene, I'm sure there would be more subjects that you want to showcase that the child is good at, right? So in that case, I would recommend to pick up the APs for the subjects that you're not doing for A-levels and do the APs for those subjects. That would be my recommendation. Arisa, another question. For a top 50 US college, what SAT score do you recommend? Arisa, I would say 1450 plus. That's the minimum that I would recommend. The more you have, the better it is, but 1450 is what I would definitely recommend, at least is what I would recommend that you should be looking at. Yeah, so just to give you a perspective, 1500 is a 99th percentile. So if you get anything above 1500, you're in the top 1 percentile bracket, right? So you should try and aim for that. But if not, at least 1450 is what you should try and get. Okay, any other question? Okay, I got another question. How many essays and extracurricular count? Oh, sorry, how much essays and extracurricular count? A lot. A lot for essays, I would say a lot. And I'm assuming you're talking about the college essays, not ACT essays, right? College essays are very, very critical component because that's what basically represents who you are, right? That's the only place you are trying to portray. Let me give you a beautiful example. So somebody told me your essay should be such let's say if you're sitting in a class and you're writing your essay and you lose that page somewhere in class, right? If somebody in your class finds that page and if they read that page, they should know that this essay belongs to this individual without having the name on the paper, right? So it should be that well-defined essay, right? Because that's the only way you are able to show it to the college that who you are, right? Who you stand for, right? And hence it's very, very important for you to have a really, really good essay. Extracurriculars definitely count, but they can't be superficial in nature. You have to do extracurricular in a way that it really makes some impact, because you can't be doing extracurricular just for your college application, because colleges, I mean the admission officers can see through it and they can figure out that you've done it only for the colleges, right? So if you're genuinely interested in it, they will be able to see through it and they will figure it out how genuinely you have done it, right? So my suggestion to you would be only pick up the extracurricular activities which you're genuinely interested in. I'm asking this question. My daughter is learning dance. Okay, she's certified. Amazing. I think that's really, really important. And I think that if I have to build that story, that's so amazing that she has followed that passion for the last 13 years, 12, 13, 14 years. So I think that's an amazing example of persistence, consistency, so all those leadership, all those qualities, right? So the way I do it is, you list down the qualities that you want to showcase and then see what are the activities that you've done and see which activity denotes that particular quality of yours, right? So if the child is learning dance at the age of grade 4, I'm sure she must have done, she has done certification already, that basically showcase that, she has shown persistence, she has been doing it along with the school, so I think that would really, really help. So to put burden in terms of credit courses or AP might result in burnout, she has committed of 10 hours per week. Yes or no, because I'm assuming if she has already done it for the last 13 years, even if you take that on a slightly back burner for the time being, it's still okay. And you can now showcase, because dance, she has done it for 13 years, right? So that's already sorted for her, right? Now, even if she puts it on a back burner for, let's say, 6-8 months or a year and put it up on the AP, it'll help her to add one more dimension to her profile. So if I had to take that option, I would probably do that, because whatever benefit or advantage she could get out of the dance, she would get it whether it's 14 years or it's 15 years. It wouldn't make too much of a difference, right? So I would do that if in case I had an option. But again, I think you will have to decide it based on your availability. What is the importance of IELTS exam and what is the right time to take it? Anisha, really, there's no importance of IELTS exam. It's only for a immigration criteria, not really an admission criteria. So don't worry about that. It's a very, very simple, easy exam. You could write it whenever you want to. Right time to take it. Generally, people take it towards the latter half of grade 11th. IELTS happen almost every week, so there's no problem of timing as well. So I don't think you need to really worry about IELTS. You can take it at any time. Alisa, okay. The question is for performing arts, what AP exams you suggest? No. So I think, as I said, right, you'll have to go and check on the AP College Board website for that particular course. What are the APs that you want to look for, right? So there is AP Psychology, there is AP History, there is AP Human Geography, there is AP, different kinds of histories, right? So depending on, depending on those, you could pick one AP or two APs. Also, you don't have to just do everything towards the performing arts, right? You could also showcase that she's, let's say she's good at other subjects as well, right? So to showcase that also you could write APs if in case you have to. Which one is better, eco or business? There is no business AP, first of all. For economics, you have two APs. One is microeconomics and one is macroeconomics. So you can definitely pick one from there as well. And that's a very, very famous APs, by the way. Like a lot of students in India write it. Great. Any further questions, guys? Okay, so I don't see any further question. With that, I would like to thank each and every one of you for attending the webinar, for coming on a Sunday morning. And as I said, we'll be sending out the mailer latest by Monday, with all the recordings link. You can go through this webinar again. And if in case there are any questions, please feel free to reach out to us back on any of these numbers or via mail. Thanks once again. Thanks for joining in. I hope you got some information about this exam and I was able to help you with some sort of clarity about when you should be writing this exam and who should be writing this exam. Great. Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Thanks. Bye.